session of, hi everyone, welcome to the closing keynote for the Library 2.0 24. And this is our special conference that's been focused around the future of libraries, Library 2035, imagining the next generation of libraries. And I am excited to welcome you to this session. Next slide. So I'd like to give a special thank you to our founding partner, which is San Jose State University School of Information, and also with support from Skill Type. So thank you to them. I also want to give another special shout out to the School of Information, particularly to Sue Allman and to Bethany Winslow, who have been pitch hitting for Steve Hargadon, who normally would be helping us run the logistics of the conference, but unfortunately has been impacted by Hurricane Helene and is unable to join us today. Our best wishes to him and to everyone who's been impacted by the hurricane. But thank you to School of Information for helping out with the logistics here. Okay, next slide. I think we can go on to the next slide. So with that, I'd like to welcome you again and introduce our session today. I'm very excited for our closing keynote session for the mini conference. In this closing keynote, we're going to be focusing on library jobs of the future. With all of the changes that are happening in our field, including the many technological developments, as well as changes in user behavior, changes in the expectations from our communities, I think it's important for us to explore what that means for us, both for those of us who are currently in the field and also those of us who will be joining the library as library professionals in the future. Like, what are the skills that we'll need in the future, and what kinds of jobs should we be preparing for? So for us to explore this in a little bit more depth, I thought this would be a great way for us to close out the way and the conversations we've been having for the past 2.5 hours. And I invited two of the book contributors to my book, Library 2035, Imagining the Next Generation of Libraries, who wrote chapter 21, Future Library Job Descriptions 2035, and to join us today. And I'd like to welcome Stacey Aldrich, who is the State Librarian in Hawaii, and Jarrid Keller, who is the Deputy Director of Support Services, who's at Sacramento Public Library. So with that, welcome, Stacey and Jarrid.
Aloha, thank you so much.
Yes,
it's great to be here.
Yes, absolutely wonderful to be here. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. So I'd like to kick us off with some of the questions today, and with this first question. So what do you think are some of the external changes that are going to be impacting library jobs, and how should librarians be thinking about those changes? Stacey.
Thank you. Again, thank you. It's so wonderful. I've enjoyed the sessions that I've gone to and all the great conversation that we're having about the future today. And I think where sometimes we can have a challenge as libraries is when we keep navel gazing about what's our future versus what is happening in the outside that's going to influence what we do and what our role needs to be. How does it evolve in our communities? And so I think Deanna mentioned in her session about STEEP, which is what are the changes in society and technology and the economy and college, the environment and politics. The world doesn't happen in a vacuum, and we talk a lot about AI, but we don't necessarily talk about the impacts on society, the impacts on politics, because all of those things are going to have impacts. So I think we have to look at society and will the trends of lack of being able to regulate oneself continue? What will the impact of technology continue to be with social media on the humanity of people? What is human compared to technology? I think we're having a lot of debates about that with AI. If AI can create art, if AI can write, what is humanity, and how do we make technologies that are more humane? I think from an economic standpoint, we really do have to keep looking at content. That's one of the things we do is we create collections of things, and information and content is exceedingly expensive, and we still have models that don't work for us. And so will we be squeezed from a future of economy of content? I think we also need to pay attention to the environment, and our thoughts are with Steve and all of the folks in the Carolinas and Georgia and other parts of the South who were impacted by the storms. This is not going to be, this isn't like a once in a lifetime thing. We're seeing more of these things happening in Hawaii. We have to pay attention to climate. We're looking at potential 4-foot rise in sea level, and we have libraries that are basically on the beach, and we're starting to move them. We're working with our legislature to find new places to be because we could be underwater. So, and then politics. People ask me what they think, what we think the future is going to be. I say we have, I need to wait until after November election, because there's so many possibilities of what the future will be. And I think it will definitely be determined in how this election happens. So I know, Jarrid, what do you want to add?
Yeah, no, thanks. First of all, thanks everybody for allowing me to be here. This is really exciting. The presentations earlier today are just absolutely amazing. And it's just so many things are swirling through my head right now. So, but dovetailing off what Stacey was had brought out, I really kind of want to focus on really 2 areas that I think that are really having huge external changes, and that's politics and technology. It was Mel Brooks who said it's about politics, 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 and how true he was and is about this. So for libraries, politics from local, state, national level are having huge impacts on how we're doing things today. Right? These last few years have been very interesting since the pandemic and continue to be interesting. But in addition to this, with politics, it is about us also understanding the politics of our communities and really how to work within those confines to be able to help progress what the library does and does well. And so those are some really interesting factors that, the game and the rules aren't necessarily the same as they used to be. And so we're learning as we go along, and we have to learn how to adjust to those rules and actually how to play the political game, which we do an incredible job of. But as the rules are changing, we have to be able to evolve with that. Also talking a little bit about technology, right? So libraries, we have poised ourselves as like the default internet provider for many of our communities, the default provider for access to computers and other technology. But as we know, there's other initiatives, other political initiatives going out there that are helping to get internet at home. We can all debate about the overall effectiveness and how quickly it's going, but let's look ahead the next 10 years, right? In California, we already have an 89% adoption rate for internet at home and for devices in the home. So as more of these things that we have traditionally positioned ourselves as, we are the default internet provider, we're the default provider of technology, as more people have it at home, how are we going to start evolving? Because we can no longer hang our hats on those statements any longer. So how are we going to change? So I think it's going to be very interesting with all the external things that are happening out there, and how we're going to have to evolve library services, and how also those of us who work in libraries are going to have to change. So I see it as an exciting and fun time. I'm looking at it very glass half full.
Great. Thank you both. Yeah, so I think that's a good segue then for the next question, where I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how you think library jobs are going to change in the future. And as you're considering that, I'm sure you'll touch on it anyway, but how do you think AI will impact library jobs in the future as well? You don't need to confine yourself to AI, but I bet you it would touch on it anyway.
I've been thinking a lot about this since we wrote the chapter and listening to folks today. I feel like we have to think about this as an evolution, that the job that we do right now related to AI is not going to be the job that we're going to do in 10 years related to AI. So there's this evolutionary pathway that we're going to have to take. And I think right now, the conversations about helping people understand what AI are and making sure AI is understanding what how it can be used, all of those things are right now. the challenge for us is that happens very fast. And so I think when we think about the jobs of the future, I think what we do evolves and it changes into something different. I know a futurist slash technologist who has created an AI version of one of his mentors. And he's entered all of these papers and conversations. And when he needs to think about something and talk with his mentor, he has a conversation with his mentor. What does it look like when our favorite reference librarian is, AI Auntie Betty, that we're the ones that are creating Auntie Betty. We're the ones putting in all the information to help create her connection with information in our communities and making it easier for people to have conversations with people. And Auntie Betty is also based on somebody who may have retired, and we're making sure we capture all her knowledge so that it can move forward. So I think what we do is going to evolve, and how we do it is going to evolve, and it has to evolve. I don't think we're necessarily going to be doing all the same things. If you would have asked me in 1992, was the internet going to kill libraries? I really didn't think the internet was going to kill libraries. I think there is this human connection that we have. So I think our roles are going to be very human. And so our work that we do is going to have to be focused on how we humanize all the things that are happening around us, but also create these tools that help people better find what we do. So not just becoming passive acceptance of things to be created, but can we start creating more effectively these tools?
Thank you. Jarrid?
Yeah, so one, I am actually very excited about how our jobs will be changing in the future. And I think we really got a really good preview of it during the pandemic, right? And what the future is going to look like. And I see it in a very positive way. So during the pandemic, I coined the phrase, new adventures every 37 minutes. And why I did this is because it was every 37 minutes, there was new information coming out about the pandemic, what was going on. And it seemed like every 37 minutes, we were having to pivot our services to meet community need. Now, 2035, my new phrase will be new adventures every 37 seconds, right? Because as there are new mediums and there's new technology, the information is getting slammed at us faster and faster. Let's look to see how just the role that AI has been playing lately in getting information to us, right? You put something to Chat GPT, not only does it give you what's going on, but it also do predicting about what other different things are going on. So I think that in terms of library workers and our jobs, we have a really unique role and an incredible opportunity to help all of us make sense of all this different information from all these different sources. And this is going to be critical because we also have the ability to provide reliable, accurate information and tell us what's real and what's not real. As we know, there's a lot of interesting stuff out there with the dark web, with deep fakes. So we have the amazing opportunity really to use our critical thinking, information literacy, and deep understanding of how to access best resources so that we can provide the best information to the public. I'm personally really excited about this, and I think I just think the job's going to become more and more interesting as time goes by.
And I think we have to own those opportunities. We don't have to wait for somebody to tell us that libraries could do this job. I think there's some white space out there that's not completely being filled. And we do have this opportunity to be the helpers, the connectors of truth. And what is truth?
Well said.
Thank you. So that's exciting to think about some of these things. So what do you think are going to be some of the skills that are going to be needed by information professionals, by librarians in the future to be able to provide these different, to fill these jobs or to meet the demands of the future?
I think the first thing is to know what it is you want to do. I think each library person needs to decide, where do I want my energy to be? Am I a children's librarian? Am I still helping with education? Am I a technology librarian? Am I a teaching librarian? Am I an information librarian? And based on those, am I an archival librarian? Am I a school librarian, academic? You have to figure out where you want to be. And then I think once you're there, it's really looking at how can I continue to serve my community the best way possible. And I think the skills we're going to need are systems thinking. I think we do need to start building scenarios because the future is changing a little bit more quickly now, I think, than we've experienced in the past. We get so much information. I think sometimes we think it's moving faster than it really is. We're changing, but we're not. I always feel like the future is like a spring. We go forward and then we bounce backwards. So we have to know our history. But I think really making sure, if you're in the education realm, to know how reading works. We have a severe literacy issue here in the United States. We have millions of children who can't read. And while there's new technologies, voice in, voice out technologies that can help people connect, reading is still going to be a baseline. So we should have those reading skills and know how to help people learn how to read. How do we pick up those folks who haven't learned how to read? I think if you love like the ins and outs of things, engineering, be that engineering librarian who can help us make the antibodies work for us to help support our communities. I feel like there's another thing to think about is organizational development. I think we are going to need empaths in our libraries, people who can keep alert to what's happening in our libraries and help us navigate all of the change together. So I think those skills of understanding how people engage and what community are going to be important, not just for your community externally, but internally.
Jarrid?
Ditto to everything Stacey said. Yes, I mean, that was a terrific response. You know, and I think one of the things we're really going to have to do is we're going to have to kind of specialize in a little bit of everything, right? Just really keeping our, you know, paying attention to everything that's going on around us in our environments and figuring out really where are the gaps. I really think that one of the things we're really going to have to do is we're going to have to evolve with new technologies, right? And that's going to be critical, and seeing how those technologies are helping us provide services, how they're helping us provide the communities, to provide information to our communities. That's going to be critical. We already do that now, but now it's going to be taking it to a next level, right? It's pretty much, we're going to have to, when there's something new out there, we're going to have to take the initiative, and we're just going to have to check it out and see how it's working. And not only that, but also pay attention to what's happening in some of the other industries around us. So I think it's, for someone who has ADD like myself, it's a great opportunity to kind of go out there, specialize, look to see everything that might be out there. And it also is going to give us really an opportunity to help create programs and services that cater to the communities and those we serve.
I'd like to just quickly bounce to Glenn McRae, who talked about demographic shifts and the idea of older adult librarians. It's a perfect example of, we also have to have skills around thinking about data and looking at the trends and the patterns in our community, because what you might be one day and you might be needing to do in one day is evolving. So if you can think about what you need to be doing next, you can start preparing for that. And it's hard because we get stuck in, like, we're just dealing with the present. We have to do that. But how do we prepare in our communities? Because every community is different. One day you might have a community that is much older, and then all of a sudden something happens in your economy that brings in families, and now you've got a new role to play. And so it is really being able to be connected to your communities, to all the people who are in your neighborhood, Mr. Rogers used to say, and being able to look at that data so you can evolve.
Great, thank you so much. I'm wondering, as we're thinking about those skills that are going to be needed, the kinds of things that you were just talking about, how is it that students or people who are currently working in the field can build these new competencies and skills that they need to have?
You want to go first, Jarrid?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things they can do is they have to be curious and they have to be fearless. What they need to do is they need to start, you know, thinking what's resonating with our community, what's the next big thing? And that's going to be in terms of if it's training, and training can either be formal or can be informalized. We're also at a very interesting time where there are a lot of people who are retiring within our profession, and it's a great opportunity for mentorships and to be able to learn what you did not know. There's also the opportunity to, as I like to say, get out in your community, get out and maybe do an internship in an area outside of the libraries, just to kind of see how things are working in other professions and how that can be brought into libraries. So I think those are some tools that you can do.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. And building off of what Jarrid was saying, I would encourage people to just always look outside the profession and look outside the profession and what things you're interested in, because you'll be amazed how many trends you can see by reading all kinds of different information and ideas to see what's out there. I think for scenario building, there are future workshops that you can take. There's all kinds of videos on scenario planning. There's lots of different books you can read that help you think about the future. I think those are vital, and all of them encourage you to do systems thinking. I encourage you to be fearless about tech. Try to break it. I always talk about dreaming, dreading, and I would say destruction, but I know in our, we have a group that's working on AI, a national group that's thinking about AI. It's deconstructing it. I don't think we should fear it. We should try it and try to break it, see how far it can take us. So I encourage you to play with all the new technology and think about, what does it mean for services? How many other people are using it? Well, what are other industries doing, or what experiences are people having that they're going to expect us to be able to do in a library? And what does that look like? And I think, taking some basic data courses on how to think about data. And there's a lot of great library workshops that are out there for thinking about data. I really encourage people. I think Susan Allman had a whole bunch of conferences for people to go to. I agree. Go to the Consumer Electronics Showcase, see what technology is coming, if you can, in Las Vegas, and also try South by Southwest or Pop Tech, which is now in Washington, D.C. There's all kinds of great conferences that are about the future, and they bring together really interesting people who are having these kinds of conversations, and help you get into the mix.
Great, thank you. So I'm curious what you would say to someone who is interested in working in libraries and has questions about the prospects and challenges of the field. Or another way of thinking about it is like, what recommendations do you have for someone who might be interested in pursuing a library career in this changing environment?
I would say it's like one of the most exciting fields to be in right now. There's so many different areas that you can use your interest and your talents. It isn't all technology. There is a very human side. There's an educational component. There's a creative side. There's a saving our history side. There's just so many different things that you can do. And it is changing. It is something that you are going to want to always be learning. So if you are curious and always love to learn, it's like the perfect profession to be in, because you're going to have the opportunity to learn many different things. And I think I'm optimistic about libraries because we are responsive. We talk about, it does take us some time to move a little bit. But when we have to, we're very creative and we can make change very quickly. And if that's what you like to do, is learn all the time and do different things and focus on supporting services in the community. And as Calvin was saying, we are the last bastion of democracy. If that's your jam, libraries are the place to be.
And, dovetailing off what Stacey said, libraries truly, I know, have been the best adventure of my life. And I know for anybody who's interested in them, it really will be the best adventure of their life. Libraries was not my first career. It just happens that the other panelists I'm on with here, helped bring me into libraries. And because we are the only branch of government that has something for anybody and everybody. We allow anybody and everybody through our doors. We're open, we're accessible. With your library card, you have unlimited access to all the knowledge, all the services that all of us offer. And that is truly incredible. There's no other entity out there that touches the community and provides as much transformation as change as libraries do. I mean, as I say, it's new adventures every 37 minutes. It's just, there's never a dull moment. It's always fun. We're always learning something different, and we're always have the ability to really kind of work outside of what we normally do. I mean, think about all the adventures that you have in a day. What other job is there like it? I mean, libraries are just wonderful.
But I do think there's an edge to it too.
Yes.
If I can play on the what I'm concerned about hat, I hope that we don't misjudge some of the changes that are happening now, because they have a deeper impact on what we do. I believe Stephen Hawking when he writes letters about his concern of AI and what it could become, and the risk is not the malice, but the competence. And so I think what we really need to be is more human. So our value in the future is going to be the humanity of linking people, and also being the ones to say the technology that's not humane or doesn't support humanness is not where we want to be. We have to be the connectors, and we've been that for a long time, but it's going to be very easy for people to say, oh, well, I got my Auntie Betty librarian, I don't need libraries anymore. So it's that evolving role, like each year, what's happening, what's shifting in your community, what's your circulation looking like, why are people making different decisions? We're going to constantly have to be navigating that, and the more connections we can make as humans, that's going to be our value, I think, as we move forward.
Well, we just have a couple more minutes left. So Bethany, if you could pull up the last slide. I just wanted to conclude and say how thank you so much to Stacey and to Jarrid. And I'm kind of building off of what they were talking about. I wanted to mention a couple of things of ways that you can continue to think about the future of libraries, and also to ensure that you're building your skills for the future, for future opportunities as well. And so those of you who might not have been able to make it to the opening keynote, I wanted to paste in here again I'm sorry, I got duplicated twice. I wanted to put in here the webcast information for the Library 2035 book, where you can watch the free webcasts of the interviews that I engage with authors like Stacey and Jarrid, which is fantastic. And I also wanted to mention a new opportunity for Library 2035 community to build on your skill sets for the future. For those of you who aren't familiar with Skill Type, it's a new talent management platform for the library profession. And it was founded by one of the contributors to the Library 2035 book. His name is Tony Zanders. And earlier this month, Skill Type announced that it's offering a new offering for individual subscribers. And to celebrate the launch of Library 2035, they have provided a 20% discount for members in our community to sign up for an annual subscription. So you can see that with the QR code, and I tried to put it in the chat as well. But we're going to be using the Library 2035 Skill Type community to organize our content and also to connect members of the community from around the world. So this is just something that they've offered us in the past, just last week. And you can use this discount code if you're interested in that. But with that, I'd like to just wrap up and again say thank you so much to everyone. This has been a fantastic conference, and it's been so inspiring to hear all of the different perspectives and ideas. And I want to thank again Stacey, Aldrich, and Jarrid Keller for bringing it home today with this closing keynote session. It was fantastic. And I'm really happy to see that you're optimistic about the future, even with the few cautions that you put in there as well. So everyone, I hope you're inspired, and I look forward to continuing the conversation in one of these other ways, whether that's through skill type or other kinds of communications. So let's stay in touch. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys. That was great. You guys did so great. It was it was just the way I wanted to end it. It was very inspiring and uplifting. So that was fantastic. And so thank you again for